Okay, here we go. All right, I don't think I need. Well, maybe I'll keep those in. So sorry. So we're back. It's been like almost 3 months. The last broadcast I did was for the Halloween broadcast, and so I am. Actually, I do need to take those out. Of course, just to be expected, it's going to take me a minute to get the hang of this again. So I have to say, we ran into a snag here. I was going to interview Oriol here at the beginning, and Ecamm Live, the platform I use for streaming. It's not the platform; it's the streaming encoder that I use. It has this brand new interview feature, and Oriol and I tested it like 2 hours ago, and it worked great. And I thought, oh, this is going to be easy. And just now, I was trying to get him online again, and we were experiencing some sound issues. So, but it's okay. I'm going to interview Oriol in 2 weeks when I'm back for our second broadcast of the year, when we will fold Oriol's lucky cat. But anyway, geez, it's been forever. I mean, I definitely needed a bit of a break from doing all the live streaming. But you know what? I've also been really busy doing these awesome projects, particularly for this one organization I work with in Cleveland called the Center for Arts Inspired Learning. And they hired me to produce a series of videos for them for grades 3 through 5. It's a virtual residency, and I did this as a collaboration with another artist, a musician. And so he and I developed this 5-week residency, a virtual residency for grades 3 through 5, where we're doing music, we're doing origami. The program is called The Rhythms of Origami. And he's teaching fractions through rhythms, and I'm teaching storytelling through storygami. And it's been amazing, and it's been so much work, but I've just been very, very fortunate to have the opportunity for this gig. Lots of other teaching gigs too just keep coming my way. I've been very, very fortunate. But anyhow, yeah, but here we are. We're back today. You might notice something. It looks a little different now. I've got a modified setup, and I'm pretty excited about it. I want to say hello to everyone. I've got my Windows set up so I can hopefully kind of keep an eye on the comments in the chat. It's good to see you all too. Like I said, I know it's been a while, but Sarah Williams, my colleague and co-conspirator, and I have been working really hard on a new year of programming. We're just getting started here. And wow, okay, oh, it's so good to see everybody here. Thank you for saying what's up in the comments. Hello to my friends around the world. We got a lot of cool stuff in store for you. So this month, I wanted to highlight a Spanish designer who I'm also friends with, named Oriol Esteve, who has 2 fabulous books that he has published with Nicholas Terry. One of them that just came out here at the end of last year. But we're going to fold something from his first book with Nicholas. I'll throw the slide back up there again. Stop Thinking, Start Folding. We're going to fold this cute little fox, which is the first model in this book. And I got some bad news, folks. The book is so popular that we're already, the first edition is already out of print, meaning that we've already sold all of the physical copies at the French store and here in the US store that were available. But Nicholas Terry is producing a second edition, so you will still be able to get the paperback version of this book. But congratulations, Oriol, for selling out of your first edition of your first book with Nicholas. But he's got a new book. Oh, I should also mention you can still get the ebook versions at both the US shop and origamishop.com. And of course, he's got his brand new book, which is not out of stock, Fold with the Flow. And so, again, I was supposed to have him on to interview him. We had it all set up, and then at the last minute, we had some technical difficulties. Of course, of course. But okay, so hey, let's just get to it, shall we? All right, so let me switch here. Okay, y'all are gonna love this. Check this out. No more bubble. I'm now in the corner. Now I'm starting to look like a real gamer over here. True gamer. Oh, you know what else? I forgot. Let me put this back on there. Gotta get the branding over there. My logo. Anyway, it's good to be back. Hi, everyone. I see you all saying hi. This is so great. It's just, it feels good. It feels good. I definitely needed the break, but as you can see, we've been working. We've been hard at work. We've been doing new and cool, fun stuff. So, something else I should mention, Sarah Williams, my colleague and collaborator, drew diagram steps for today's class. And we used the diagrams in Nicholas's book as a starting point, but we kind of reformatted some of them so that they were a little bit better suited for how I teach the model. So it's pretty cool to kind of like reimagine the sequence and the process and the manner in which it's sort of delivered. Okay, so here's the other cool thing that we're going to do here. So we're going to use some large scale diagrams. And then what I'm going to do here, check this out. So I'll go from here. I'll be able to get it out of the way for when we actually do the folding. Okay, but I'm going to do my best to kind of switch back and forth, because I think it's really helpful to be able to see the diagram step nice and large. And hey, we've got the technology, we've got the tools, we've got the talent. So before we actually start folding, let me talk a little bit about paper selection. Now, I recommend, of course, this is a fox. We're folding here. Let me get this out. So here's a cute little orange fox. I just want to show you. This is a 24 centimeter sheet of paper, which is about 8 inches. Oh, wait, sorry, I'm holding the wrong one. There we go. That's more like it. So this is the scale. Okay, this is the scale from the sheet that you start with to the end result. I folded this one out of a 35 centimeter sheet, which is 14 inches. It's about the biggest unfolded square sheet that we sell here at the shop. And so yeah, another thing, this paper, or this model, it gets kind of thick because of the layering. So I do not recommend you use thick paper. Thick paper is going to be a real challenge, and you'll find out soon enough. I find that even just with the kami itself it gets a little thick at times, but that's okay. All right, we'll make it work. And here, cool. Got a lot going on here. Just trying to reconfigure how I got my windows set up. I've got my second monitor over here and everything. And oh, when it's snowing, how about that? All right, so let's begin. Another thing I will mention too is that I'm going to start out with this 24 centimeter sheet, but once the model starts to shrink down, or the paper starts to kind of shrink down in size a little bit after we do some folding, I've got a 35 centimeter sheet that I'm going to switch to, so that it's easier to see on the camera. All right, so let me get this diagram slide back up here. And we're going to start with the white side facing up. And I want to point out, now it's not as important right here, this very first step, but So just ignore that star at the corner just for now. What we want to do is we want to make pinch marks that are at the halfway point of each of the 4 sides. Okay, so the way we're going to do that, remember, we're just making pinch marks. I can't tell you how many times I've started to fold pinch marks and then I forget what I'm doing halfway through and then I end up creasing the whole thing. I bet some of you have done that before too. But anyway, we're going to hold before we fold, get those corners lined up as best we can. And I'm going to make a pinch mark on the right and left side. And it gives us our first 2 pinch marks. And now we need them on the other 2 sides. So I'm going to rotate the paper so that I can get pinch marks here on the other 2 sides. I'm going to start to perform a book fold. And all right, and so now we've got our 4 pinch marks. Okay, next step. Now, this is where it's important that we identify one corner of the model that is going to become the head of the model. And so in the diagram here, we've got this down here, the left, bottom left corner. Okay, we're going to make some new pinch marks. Okay, we're not making full crease marks just like before, and we're going to use those halfway points, but we want to only do them. See, I've got them here and here. All right, so what that's going to look like, I'm going to take the bottom edge up to the halfway pinch marks, and we're just making pinch marks, just pinch marks here and here. Okay, now that corner, that star, we're going to treat that here as the bottom left corner. So we need pinch marks here and here. So I'm going to actually rotate the paper. Now my star corner is over here on the right. And remember, the star corner is going to become the head of the model. And we make a couple more pinch marks. Okay, and if I put my paper back, I now have pinch marks here and here, here and here, and then of course we have them here and here as well. Okay, now for the next step, we are going to actually make a full valley crease, and we're still kind of, we keep using the pinch marks that we used in the previous step. So now we're going to, I'm going to take the bottom edge to that closest pinch mark, which is kind of hard to see with my current lighting. Oh, see, I got to get used to this. So, okay, I just took that bottom edge up to the first set of pinch marks. My star corner is over here, the head of the model, and I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to put a valley fold here, but I like to rotate the model. Now my star corner is on the right, bottom right. Bring that up. And then we unfold each of those steps. Okay. So now I'm back here, star corner, down here, bottom left. Okay. Next step, we're going to flip the model over. And now keep in mind where your star corner is. Okay. Now we want to make sure that the star corner is at the bottom. Okay, and the next step, we are going to take that corner, we're going to fold it up, and we're going to use the crease lines in the paper. And actually, here, let me show you. Oops. Oh, I know, it's going to take me a minute to get the hang of this. Okay, we're going to fold that bottom corner up, and you see how those crease lines line up? So let's do that here. We're going to fold that bottom corner up through that intersection and just make those crease lines align with one another. Okay. And now we're going to take that same corner and we're going to fold it down using those landmarks that are in the paper already. So we just fold that down. And again, I'll mention this is diagrammed slightly differently than it appears in the original version of the diagrams in the Nicholas Terry book, diagrammed by Nicholas Terry. Stop thinking, start folding. Okay, so we've just folded that corner down. All right, so now we want to flip it over once again. Now we got the star corner up at the top, all right? And we're going to just unfold that previous step. Okay, so we just flipped it over. We unfold to that step. And now we're going to zoom in up here on the top corner, and we are going to do a collapse using the existing creases. So it's going to look like this. We're using the existing valley creases here. We've got two mountain folds, and this kind of collapses in the kind of like the way that a preliminary base collapses, except we've got the corner tucked inside there. All right, so that's what we've got. Now we are going to make some new valley creases with those flaps that we just created here. Oops. Okay, so that means we're going to take the raw edge up to the creased edge. And this is starting to become kind of a thin flap. And on one of the edges, you will be, if you're using kami, you're going to be folding against the grain of the paper on one of the directions. And I think that was against the grain for me. I could tell that one just gave me a little bit more resistance, and you can always tell because like the edges don't want to line up quite as well. So I'm going to do the same thing over here. Glad you all like the new diagram stuff that we're working with. Okay, so we just folded those flaps up, and now go ahead and unfold them. We're back here. And let's see where we're at here. All right, so now we're going to refold, but we're going to do a little something up here at the top. And we're just using the existing creases. We're going to send those flaps back up, but we're going to do a little something there with the white corners. And so if you notice, you'll get little mountain folds underneath those little, or actually, so you get little pockets, and just on top of the pockets, you get these little mountain creases. And the thing that I think is helpful to kind of pay attention to when we're doing this step, and let me zoom in a little bit. Okay, so I'm zooming in. So you're going to, the key is that you want to take this little extra flap and you want to kind of wrap it around the edge where you have this color change. Because this is actually where we're making a new crease that follows that color change right here. So we're just going to kind of push that up as we refold the long flap from before, and then that'll just sit down at like a nice little perpendicular angle there, a 90-degree angle. And that's what it looks like. So I'm going to do the other side, get under the pocket, really kind of make sure that I'm getting close to that edge so I can wrap the paper around like so. All right, and that's what it looks like. Okay, I'm going to zoom out again. So that's what we just did. And then that's what we end up with. And now we want to flip it over. And keep in mind where your little star corner is. Okay, so that's that's the head. This is kind of what we've been working on. The star corner is back on the bottom left. And so here we are. And the next couple of steps are going to be kind of similar to the process that we just did. And let's just quickly talk about what we just did. So this is a really common thing. You see this a lot in Oriol's models. And I know there's a technical name for this type of fold. Maybe somebody in the chat can throw that out there. But this is a step where you kind of do this little preliminary base form in one corner, and that gives you extra flaps up here, and it gives you extra layers here. Well, we're going to do the exact same thing. So here, I flip the paper over. We're now looking at the colored side. The corner, the head corner is in the bottom left. And yes, those two little points, those are going to become the fangs of the model. It's pretty cool. And we're going to do a very similar thing that we did before, where we make pinch marks at the halfway points on all four sides. So let's start by doing that. The one thing that is a little different this time, of course, is that we've got all these extra layers on two of the edges. So you have to and remember, we're only making pinch marks. Don't make a full crease, just pinch marks. But over here where you have a bunch of layers built up, sometimes you have to kind of work with the paper a little bit because it's all kind of, crowding up a little bit. But that went pretty well for me on that one. Sometimes it doesn't always go so well. So, I almost forgot. We're making pinch marks on both the right and left side because we need them on all four sides of the square. So we've got our two here and here. And I'm going to do the other two here and here. Okay, now I've repositioned the paper where the star corner is back here in the bottom left. I'm making a big deal about it, but for good reason. Okay, this time, what we're doing now is a bit similar to what we just did before, but we don't have to do as many iterations of the subdivisions because we're going to... Oh, yeah. So we still need to make some more pinch marks, excuse me. Now, here's one thing that I want to point out. Because we already had some pinch marks from the beginning of the model, we don't want to get those confused with the ones that we just made. Now, fortunately, the ones that we just made are valley creases, and the ones from the beginning of the model are mountain creases. Okay, so just make sure that the pinch marks that you're using now are the valley crease pinch marks that we just made, which are actually in the center of each edge. So we're going to make another set of pinch marks, kind of like we did before, where we use the central pinch marks. And I'll go ahead and just put that right there. So I'm going to make pinch marks on the right and left here. And then I'm going to do the same thing wait a second. Is that right? Did I do something wrong here? Uh-oh. Okay. Oh, okay. I see what's going on here. Yeah, okay. I thought there was... Okay, I think we got something wrong with our diagram. Sorry about this. So... I'm pretty sure that actually we want to make full creases here. I think we want to make full creases, not just pinch marks. So we do the full crease there, and then we're going to do the full crease there. So what you're seeing here, we're still kind of like, we're still orienting towards the same corner, but we are actually making full creases. I think. Am I totally screwing this up, guys? Because here, at this point, now that we've got all of those done, we're going to flip the model over. And, oops, I keep, man. Tell you, I need to get one of those little control panel things. Okay, so here we go. Next step, we're going to make a valley crease that goes through that intersection that we just made. And we're going to do the exact same thing that we did before, where we use the crease mark. Let me get this out of the way. So we use the crease lines here in the paper. We're lining those up so that we can fold right through that intersection. All right, and we unfold once we make that crease. So we just fold it through this intersection here. And now we flip it over. We've got the star at the top this time. And now we're going to collapse the model using the existing creases. That's why we needed those full valley creases there. So to do that, I'm going to pop the center of that vertex. I'm going to pop that in so that I can collapse this back down. And here we are. Okay, there's something I want to check out really quickly. Well, I can't. Oh, well. All right, we're just going to have to keep going. Oh, but you know what? This is where we're switching back to this big one we've got here. Okay. Here we are. Next, we're going to take the bottom corner and fold it up to the top tip, like so. And we're still kind of repeating a similar kind of set of steps that we already did here in the model. Okay, which is that we're going to take those flaps that we just kind of created there. Here we go. So we're going to take those flaps, we're going to fold them all the way up to the outside edge. And these are kind of pre-creases because we're going to do the exact same thing with the flaps that we did before. You fold those up and out. And now we're going to do the same thing that we just did before. Oops. Where we get under this pocket here. And we fold. And we want to, there's a few layers here. We want to make sure we're all the way underneath both of those layers. And we're going to do that same thing where we're creating a new valley crease. Actually, it's not a new valley crease. It's our, no, we're making a new valley crease that follows this edge here. And do the same thing over here. Okay. All right. Well, in case you didn't know, we're teaching the Maneki Neko Lucky Cat in 2 weeks. Oh boy. All right. Just getting the hang of it. Here we go. Okay, so here we go. We got our star corner. It's in the top right here now. And you'd think I would learn. Old habits die hard. Okay, we're going to orient the paper so that that corner is at the bottom, the star corner. And we've got these 2 little corner flaps that we're just going to fold upwards. Okay. So we're going to take this corner here, send that up like so, and then do the same thing over here. And I'm going to get a little corner. You know what? Actually, when I did this step previously, I did not do it very well. So there we go. That's better. All right. Take that corner. You can see some ears forming here. Yes, Marna, it's a subtle reminder to tune in next time. All right, so now we're going to make some valley creases through these corners here, and there's these side corner flaps. And so let me just go over here and show you. We've got a corner here, and we've got a corner here. Now the paper is going to start to get pretty thick here. Okay, and the key here is that we're taking the edge, this edge here of the flap, and we're bringing it over to this edge right here. And this is a pre-crease, so just try to keep the paper as orderly as you can. Okay, and those are fold and unfolds. Do the same thing over here. Take that corner. And the thing that I always run into is because you've got all these layers and you've got a mountain fold, and you're folding through a bunch of layers and a mountain fold, you always have to kind of make sure that the paper that's down and squished up in there is as clean as you can make it. Okay, so those are pre-creases, and you're going to see the fox face here in just a second. So we're going to zoom in, and so the thing is that while we did just make some pre-creases, we're not going to follow the pre-creases exactly. We're going to kind of push part of the layer in a certain way so that we get a little bit more of an angle here. So this is what it's going to look like. Let me just go back here. Okay, so if you were to just reverse, use those creases on just the way they are, you would just take this corner, you would end up pulling this flap open, and you would push this in. And I'm just going to do it the way the way that just follows the existing creases, which is kind of tough because the paper is really thick. But if you were to not make the adjustment, it's funny, it already kind of wants to make the adjustment a little bit. If you were to not make the adjustment, the result would look like this. Okay, we just took this and we pushed it in here. Now, what we want to do, though, we want to have a little bit more of an angle here for the side of the face. So the way we do that is inside here, if you were to, right now this valley crease more or less follows the color change. Well, we're still going to pivot from this corner right here, but if we kind of push that valley crease in a little bit, what it's going to do is it's going to pull this edge inside with it ever so slightly. And it's all pivoting from this corner right here. So I'm going to do that. And I usually kind of start with the inside, but let's try to get the paper to be flat again. And you can kind of just roll, you can also just kind of roll it from this edge, and the paper will just naturally find a new resting place on the inside of the model. And in fact, I'm gonna do mine a little bit farther than I've got it. There. So now I have this tapered angle here at the color change. And do the same thing on the other side. Get in there, and I'm just gonna kind of, first I'm gonna fold this over on the inside. I'm gonna use my thumb to kind of make a new crease that radiates still from this point, but it kind of out this way a little bit more. And just try to kind of match it up with what you did on the first one. It doesn't have to be perfect, but once you tuck that in there, and tell you, I'm not contending with all of these layers of the paper very well, but that's okay. One thing with this model is that you do get a lot of paper creep because of all of the layers that you keep building up. But just do the best you can. And there we go. We have a little fox face. Yay. Okay, so now we're going to flip the model over, and the star corner is at the bottom, and we are going to, there's a natural hinge inside here where we can flip this up. And I wonder, so I typically fold this up about as far as it wants to go. But I feel like when I do that, like my things are kind of excessively large. I wonder if I'm like folding it up too far. I'm not going to push it too far. I'm just going to flip this flap up a little ways. And I'm still more or less using the natural hinge down here. But I'm not pushing it up all the way. That's about what it looks like. Okay, now I'm going to turn the model on its side so that the head corner now is on the right. And I'm going to make a valley crease that goes through most of the paper, but it doesn't need to go through the head of the model. Okay, and because it is kind of thick, I mean, it would be kind of hard to fold through all those layers anyway. I mean, you could, but we don't have to. So basically, we're just focusing on this section of the paper. So I'm gonna kind of fold this up, line it up from the back corner here, and just fold it to just right behind the head. Like, we don't have to go all the way through all this stuff. Just through that one single layer of paper. Yeah, I have a good question here from Edwina. Hi, Edwina. How many times did I have to fold this model before I felt comfortable with it? I had to fold it a couple of times. The first time I folded it, I definitely struggled with it a little bit. I think you just have to kind of get used to the thickness of the layers. But once you kind of know how to finesse those, then it works pretty well. I still haven't really folded it with nice paper yet, though. I've only been using Kami, and I think the Kami is somewhat limited. Kami is great for learning this model, but it's it would be cool to fold this out of a nicer paper, like a big sheet of sandwich paper, which we know here in the US as tissue foil, or maybe like a big sheet of duo-tie might be cool. But all right, so we just did that. Oh boy, yeah. All right, I'll get this figured out. Okay, we're rotating it again. Now the head is at the top, and we're going to make a pinch mark. And it's a pretty large pinch mark. I mean, not to be huge, but we're making a pinch mark in the middle of the paper. So we just bring that bottom corner up. It's going to look like this. And maybe about this. Oop, Boy, it's a real drag when you do that, when you like crumple up your paper accidentally. Okay, pinch mark in the middle. Very good. Okay, now we're going to use that corner at the top as a place to make a hinge. There's kind of a natural hinge where we can fold down the head flap. So this is what it's going to look like. We're just going to kind of swing this down right along the natural sort of point, and we just keep the tip of the nose on the center line here. Flip it over once again, and now let's put the star corner here on the right side. And so what we're going to do, we're going to make a valley crease that runs parallel to the center line and radiates at a 45-degree angle from this corner right here. So here's what that's going to look like. So fold this up. Now we've got a few things lining up here. Although I think it's the important thing is that we're bisecting this 90-degree angle right here. But we also, this flap will also line up with this flap more or less. Because of the layering and paper creep, though, I wouldn't depend too heavily on this lining up. I would really just pay more attention to this angle. All right, so we folded that up. And once that's up, let's spin the paper around. Now we're going to take that star corner and we're going to flip it over to the left side here. And now what we want to do, we want to make a new valley crease that runs along this crease that's underneath here. We've got the center, it's like our line of symmetry for the whole model. And so we want to fold this flap up so that it follows that line, and it's going to look like this. Oh, I just realized that I zoomed in on one. Yeah, I got to be careful about that. Okay, anyway, moving. Oh boy. Okay, so we've just folded that up, and you might have guessed that we want to do the same thing now to the other half of the model. Okay, so if we were to look at it where the head is at the top, we've done this here. We've just made this pleat. So that's all we're doing. We're just doing that same thing now to the other side of the model. So I'm just going to go ahead and do that from here. We're bisecting this right angle here at the tip of the ear. And just like before, we now want to fold the flap back down so that, oh, but you know what? I don't like to fold down though. Here, let's go back over here. And you know what I'm going to do real quick here? Let me get this lined up. So I'm over here. Bear with me for just a second here. Okay. There, I wanted to kind of match up my zoom. Okay, so we just folded that flap up. And now we're going to take the model. I'm spinning it so that the head is back on the right side again, so that I can take the bottom corner and fold it up, like so. And then the model will become symmetrical again. And I actually end up with a gap usually. So the crease that you make, I think it's more important that you're using this area for alignment as opposed to trying to get it to land right on the center crease that goes through the center of the model because of the paper creep. Again, it's like it probably mathematically doesn't actually want to go all the way to the center. I might be wrong, but. Okay, we're flipping it over. And now we're going to set it down with the head on the left so that we can take that corner at the bottom and we're folding it to the middle. Now we actually have a landmark. And you don't see it in the drawing, but we did a pinch mark in the center here, so we know where the intersection, that intersection between these two crease lines is our landmark. So we're going to take the tip, that corner, and bring it right up there. And we want to do the same thing to the opposite corner. So I'll go on and do that. I wonder maybe what I could do here. Make this a little bit bigger. Okay. Looking pretty foxy. All right, I think what I'm going to do, I'm just going to stick with the smaller one, but I'm going to make it a little bit bigger. Okay, we're going to try something new here. Okay, so we flip the model over front to back. Here we are. The head is at the top. And we want to now make a crease that connects these two corners down here. So we take this and we flip it up. And what's pretty cool about this is that the point kind of wants to land right here, but don't use this as your landmark. Just use these side corners down here at the bottom. And that's the important part, I think. But it just so happens that that corner is going to kind of land right there. Don't you just love it when stuff lines up? Okay, here, let me check something out here. Okay, and we're going to unfold that step. So we just want that valley crease. And we're going to do the same thing up here on the opposite end. And what I've done here in the diagram, we've got it flipped around. And so now that the head is at the bottom, because I always like to fold up and away, you know, so we just kind of orient the diagram so that they look the way that the paper looks when you're folding it. So we're going to take this and we're going to fold that up. Again, just using those corners to connect. And it's definitely thicker on this end of the paper. It's a little bit more challenging. Okay, so now we're going to, at this point, we're actually going to open the model back up. But don't worry, we're not opening up like a whole ton. The main thing that we're doing here is those corner flaps on the sides get unfolded, and then the long pleats get unfolded, and that's it. It's not. I know it's like it's kind of nerve-wracking sometimes when you do all this folding and then it's like, okay, unfold everything, and then recollapse it. Well, it's okay. This isn't that scary. Don't worry. All right. Here we go. Okay. All right. We're going to make some angle bisectors using the existing crease lines. So we're going to take, and it's easier, well, we're going to do this down here. We're going to do it up there. The bottom side is easier because we only have one layer of paper to fold through. So what you're going to do, you're going to take that raw edge up to this horizontal line, but we're only going to crease up to this crease line right here. So you see the crease line there in the paper. And then do the same thing over here. Take that raw edge from this intersection or this corner where this little vertex of creases. Okay, now we want to do the same thing on the opposite side. So we're going to turn the model around so that the head is now at the bottom. And now it's a lot harder to put these creases in because the paper is a lot thicker and there's more stuff going on up here. So when I do this, I just kind of really grab the paper just in that corner where I'm making the crease. Do the same over here. Okay, now flip it over. We're gonna recollapse the model. And it's I think it's probably easier to do this from the back side here, where you just start with that pleat through the middle. And then we take those corner flaps on the right and left and just kind of put them behind. Like so. Now the real fun begins. So we're gonna zoom in. That's my favorite Bernie Payton quote. One of my favorite quotes ever. If you take a class with Bernie Payton and you get to a challenging part, and then he says, "Then now the real fun begins." Okay, so we're gonna use those pre-creases that we just made. However, there's something I want to point out. So I feel like the way that this was diagrammed in Nicholas's book, I'm a little skeptical that it's like what it's telling you. I'm not sure if it's actually true. No offense, Nicholas. But so here's the thing. We want to take this. This is a swivel fold. We're gonna take this layer and we're gonna kind of swivel this behind, like so. And you see if I swivel this along the existing crease and then make it go flat. Now the goal here is to make a new a new crease that goes from that corner down to this corner. But when you look at it in the book, it shows this edge coming all the way over here. When I do it, it does not go all the way over there, and I get a I guess it's like sort of like a bit of paper creep. So I think this, I don't know, I would rather do it this way just because we're not making any new creases. Well, we are making a new crease, but we're not making any creases outside of what the paper is telling us to do. I don't know if that makes sense. So that's how we're going to do it here. I realized I just did the right side in the diagram. So okay, so here I'll do the left side like the way it is in the diagram. So I'm using the existing crease. I'm just kind of taking that paper, and if you just swivel it, you pivot from that corner. And the goal here is that you want to get the paper underneath to, you want the paper to sit flat up here, okay? That's how all the math kind of works out. It's like once it's flat, then the paper really kind of only has one. Well, that's not actually. I don't know if that's true with this, but I don't know. Again, I got kind of tripped up on this. I feel like what it shows in the diagram is different than what happens in real life. Maybe the idea is that you are supposed to kind of fudge it a little bit, but in the end, it doesn't really matter so much that we get a little bit of this color change here, like that. Okay, so we did it down here. Now we got to do it up here, but this is where it gets a little bit more challenging because of the thickness of the layers. But we're using the exact same idea. It's the same kind of maneuver where if we use that pre-crease and take this layer, and we're going to end up. Here, I should do it on the left side first. We're going to end up with the crease that goes all the way to the corner here. Okay, so here I'll do the left side first. Kind of push that in underneath, get it to go flat, and from here, and then connect the crease with the tip of the ear. It doesn't have to go to the tip perfectly, but once again, you get a little bit of this color change here. And in fact, for the fox, it actually works just fine. I mean, it looks like a natural color change for the model. You end up with the tail end, you just end up getting a little bit of a white butt, which might actually be the way they look in the wild. It's funny, this one actually got a lot closer. And maybe all these times that I'm not getting all the way to the edge, maybe it's due to something else that I'm doing wrong, but anyway. Okay. So we've done it on both sides. It looks about like that. And now let's flip it over to this side. And what we're going to do, we're going to take this is nice because we've got these loose corners here. We can just tuck them just underneath the pleat in the middle. Get them out of the way and kind of secures them inside there. Okay. All right. Now it looks kind of like a flying squirrel. We're now going to make 2 valley creases that connect these corners. And what's nice is that happens pretty easily because we've got some edges like these corner flaps that we just tucked inside. The crease that we make is going to kind of follow those. But if you just kind of pinch a diagonal crease between opposing corners, and that's really all you're looking out for. You're not really worried too much about anything else that's going on up here, although that does kind of, it's lining up pretty nicely here on mine. So I got one side, and now I'm going to do other side. And unfold. Now we're going to install some valley creases that connect the corner here and this spot right here. There's another corner right here. Okay. I'm going to maybe I'll use the table. Okay, and now keep in mind, this edge is not going to come all the way to the color change here. Really, I'm just trying to connect this corner with this corner. And the flaps of the paper kind of guide this crease. Do it on both the right and the left-hand sides. Okie dokie. Time for a collapse. Woohoo! Okay, so here, let me enlarge this just a little bit so we'll look at the diagram. There you go, this is pretty cool. Keep in mind, I'm just kind of experimenting with how I've got this all laid out and everything. So what I recommend doing first, engage this mounting crease at the very bottom. I think that's going to kind of help everything else fall into place. So start there. Okay. And we already have these little sort of diagonals that go up to this point, which then branch off up here. Those two, so in the diagram, those two little blue mounting creases that come up here, you are going to, those are going to be new creases. Those are the newest creases. Oh, that, and then the valley fold that connects these two corners is also going to be formed here. But everything else is going to just sort of guide the collapse. And so if you just kind of pinch from the bottom, now we can get that valley fold started in here. And just by making everything sit flat, it's all going to know what to do. The paper will know what to do. And then you end up like this. Almost done. Well, we got a little ways to go. That's okay. Now, the face, here we've got this point. We're going to flip this up. There's our little fangs. All right, we're going to do another collapse. And this time, now it starts to get a little bit tricky. Just like before, though, I think engaging that mountain crease, that horizontal mountain crease, is helpful. But the thing is that we don't really have a precise landmark for making these two little valley crease segments that form a V shape. But so there's like a lot that's going to be happening here, because here in just a second, as we do this step, we're going to go from the flat version to the version that looks kind of more 3D. Okay, so we are eventually going to be, as we engage that previous step that I was just showing, we are also going to ultimately valley fold through the whole middle of the model down through the tip of the tail. Now, we're not really doing much through the head, so just kind of leave the head alone. You just kind of have to let the head be for a second. But let me just show you that again. It's kind of like I would kind of describe it as like a crimp that you're getting here, because you've got a valley followed by a mountain. So you see how I kind of like start to push that in? But now, when I go to fold the whole thing in half, you want to make sure that the rest of the model is still flat. And you see how now this starts to come over like this. Now, once you start to get into the 3D shape, you'll notice here on the front legs, you've got an edge right here. And I think, you know, going back to what you're seeing here, that the pink valley line that you've got right there, this is what you can use this edge right here to kind of guide that crease. You see, if I kind of like start to pinch it, I can now kind of more precisely place that crease. And let me do this over here on this side. Oh. The key, though, is keeping everything else kind of closed. Okay, so like I said, the head is still going to be kind of like weird and funny right now, but this is what we get. Now, what's going to happen here in this next step is that we're going to do kind of a, it's kind of an outside reverse fold for the head. And we do have, yeah, so we're going to be kind of pushing in, making two new valley creases here. But the landmark that Nicholas gives us in his book, in the diagram in Stop Thinking, Start Folding, is that if you can bring this side edge of the head here, it goes from the tip down, over, you see this line that we've got here on the front of the leg? We're basically, it's almost like forming an angle bisector between this little edge, this edge here, and this line of the leg. So it kind of requires you to kind of like just kind of push your thumbs in here and kind of pinch this. But eventually, you see how like once I get it about to here, what I can start to do is like now I can kind of try to line up those two lines. And see, once I get it to here, you see we have this kind of continuous line. So here's what we get. All right, we're so close to the end. We almost did it. Okay, before we finish up the face, we're going to put a crimp in the tail. And I like to do this with a couple of pre-creases. Okay, so what I'm going to do here, I'm going to bring the bottom edge of the tail up to meet this line right here. These are pre-creases, okay? So I'm just going to pre-crease, nice sharp crease here, and then unfold. I realize the angle is not quite the same here. And then we want another bisector that is in between the crease that we just made and the landmark that we just used. So we're going to bisect this very same angle. So now what I'm going to do, if I pinch right here, pivot at the bottom, and if I turn it over here, the goal here is that we want those two crease lines to line up right up the top here. Unfortunately, the layers are not too thick here. And, oh, I think I just had a request to repeat a step. I'm guessing you're talking about the head. Liz, are you talking about the head? What we did to get to here? Because I'm happy to go back and show that again. But let's just finish up the tail, because the tail is kind of unrelated. So we've got the two pre-creases there, which we can use for a crimp. And the way that's going to look is if you open up the fox a little bit, I almost called it a squirrel, open it up, we can see the sort of delta shape here. And you want the outermost one to be the mount, you want those to be mountain creases, and then you want the smaller one to be valley creases. So if you kind of just get the mountain creases started, okay, cool, Liz, I'll show you the head again in just a sec. If I push that in, once I get those two sets of pre-creases in the right position, and then I close it back up, We have a really nice little crimp for the tail. And then the last thing we're going to do for the tail, we get a nice little color change at the tip of the tail. So I'm going to take the tip and fold it over to the side, and we can just line everything up here. This is a pre-crease. If you just fold that over, basically the crease that you're making is perpendicular to this edge. And we can pre-crease by folding that over, open it up, open up the tail again. Now we can flip that around, flip it over using the existing crease, and then recollapse. That gives us a nice little color change in the tip of the tail. All right, so that's the tail. Now let's go back to the face. I'm going to take it back all the way to here because this is kind of where it all begins. I feel like it all kind of happens. The whole forming of the head and the face all kind of starts right here. Okay, so we've got our mounting crease. It's essentially a horizontal crease that connects these two tips. And what's going to start happening here is, I guess now that we've done the tail, that does sort of change things down there. Anyway, I guess it's all going to stay kind of folded a little bit easier now. But what's going to happen is that we're going to get some new valley creases that come down from the tips of the feet. And while that is happening, this is going to kind of come down, and it's a mounting crease in the middle on this side, but from the other side, it's a valley crease. And if you use that leg, you can use that leg to kind of, you use this line of the leg to kind of dictate where this is. So if you have to like adjust that a little bit, you can, this is that same crease. Okay. So before we do the head, that's what has happened with the legs. Maybe you already got that part. Now, the basic idea is that we're going to do an outside reverse fold with the head that pivots from this corner down here. And what's going to happen is this general line, there's not really one line, it's just kind of like this general line at the front of the face here, the front of the head, is going to be, kind of turn it inside out. We're bisecting, or basically we're, like the angle of the reverse fold is right here. And eventually this line will come over and line up with this sort of greater line. And it's kind of hard to pre-crease it, but you can pre-crease it just one layer at a time. So what you could do, if you kind of open this up, take this edge, and if you kind of bend it back, you can bend it back to like where you're taking that front line and you're making it line up with the leg. That will kind of help get it started, so then it's less arbitrary. So you can do the same thing on the other side. We're going to bisect by taking the edge of the head, and we're just kind of leaving the rest of it alone, only folding through that half. And if you kind of pull this back so that that line with the ear and the head lines up with the leg, that'll help you get it started. And then from here, I know it's kind of crumpled in here, but it's okay. You're not going to see this once it's done. Use your thumbs and kind of like use that existing, those pre-creases that you just made. And hopefully you should be able to kind of pinch it. Once you kind of do the outside reverse fold, you pinch it. And the head is not quite done. The head, it still looks kind of funny at this point, but that's what it's going to look like. Hopefully that made sense. And And we're at the very end here. Let me jump ahead here. Now we're going to do sort of a rabbit ear on that triangle in the face, the front of the face here. And so we can do that. You want to kind of open it up a little bit. But we're going to take each of the edges of this triangle first, and yeah, just take one side of that triangle and bring it down to the bottom horizontal edge of that triangle. And we're only going to crease it up to the very middle and then unfold. So it's going to get started there on the right side. And good, Liz, I'm glad to hear it. Do the same thing on the opposite side here, right and left. But only going to the middle. You don't need to go all the way out here. Just kind of your classic rabbit ear. And then you can start to collapse the two bisectors at once. And we're going to end up with the valley crease down the middle. And from here, you kind of have to take the rest of the head and pull it back in order to get the rabbit ear flap to kind of finish, to get it all in place here. Okay, now, still looks kind of funny. It's because he has a pointy nose. So what we are going to do now, we're going to take the tip, and if you kind of flatten it out a little bit, and we're just going to fold a little tiny bit of the tip back, just enough to make a cute little nose. And then once you fold it back, go ahead and kind of pinch it again from the sides. Boom. And there it is. Super cute fox. Oh, I didn't show that there. Another thing that I like to do is, this is optional, but if you want, you can do a little bit of shaping on the ears, and it's kind of like what we just did. You do another kind of rabbit ear. This is kind of like your classic, ear shaping move, where you kind of bisect from the tip, kind of pinch, and you get a nice little kind of triangulated little ear shape. So you can do that with just about any ear. And okay, so there, we did it. Yay! Now, one thing I have to say, the first one of these I folded, I wasn't really happy with the way my fangs turned out. So what I ended up doing, like if you're not happy with your fangs, this is totally up to you. You could also hide them if you wanted. You could tuck them inside, like so. And it's still super adorable and super cute. So that's what it would look like if you were to tuck the fangs in. So totally up to you. All right, we did it. We're back, yay. And in case you missed it, we will be back again in 2 weeks on Saturday, January 30th, same time, same place. And we're going to fold another one of Oriol's models from his more recent book. Actually, this is in both of his books. I think so. The version in Fold with the Flow is a modified version. So I think we're going to be folding the modified version. But thank you so much for joining us. Now, I think we have a poll here. So if you're watching this in Crowdcast, there is a poll that you could fill out. By the way, Sarah Williams, my colleague, co-conspirator, is the one running the chat on Crowdcast and has been running these polls. And hopefully in 2 weeks, we'll be able to get the interview function working, because I really want to interview Oriol. I want to have him on. He's such a great guy. And like I said, we tested it at the beginning, or 2 hours before the class started. It was working great. I was like, oh, we got this. But lo and behold. But anyway, I had a question. I think Debbie, thanks for your question about the difficulty of the Lucky Cat. I would give that a rating, probably the same level as the fox that we just folded. It's what I would consider a high intermediate model. And it's not the hardest model in the world, but it does have maybe a few challenging steps. But the good news is that these videos, they stay up in perpetuity, so you can always come back and rewatch the streams here on Crowdcast or on Facebook Live, where we are streaming concurrently. And I'm so glad to be back. You know, it was a much-needed break, but now that I'm back, I'm so pumped. Oh yeah, so we're gonna fold the Lucky Cat partially in honor of the upcoming Lunar New Year. And as a little teaser, first session of February, I'm going to teach you how to fold an ox for the Year of the Ox, designed by Fumiaki Kawahata. And I somehow managed to get permission. Anyway, long story. I'll tell you the story later. But, all right, once again, back in 2 weeks for the Lucky Cat, another one of Oriol's fantastic models. And I guess that's it. So thanks again for joining me. Take the poll in Crowdcast if you haven't already, if that's how you're watching this. There's so many of you saying hi in the chat. I wouldn't even know where to begin, but don't worry. I've been watching all the comments. Thank you for tuning in. It's so good to see you all. And we'll be back in 2 weeks. See you then. Oh, and by the way, you can still get Oriol's ebooks. Go to origamishop.us. You can still get the ebook version of Stop Thinking, Start Folding if you don't want to wait for the second edition reprint, which is coming in a matter of months. So, all right, I think that's about it. We'll see you next time, folks. Take care.